US President Donald Trump sits down with Rwandan President Paul Kagame in Davos. American children of African descent compare the US to the continent. VOA employees groove on the dance floor to celebrate Africa. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. We begin Friday in Switzerland, where U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday met with Rwandan President Paul Kagame in Davos to discuss trade and security on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum. Kagame, who has recently been appointed chairman of the African Union, said he was looking forward to working with the United States while carrying out implementation of reforms to make the continental body more effective. President Trump had some good words for President Kagame and the African continent.
It's a great honor to be with President Kagame. We have had tremendous discussions on Rwanda. The job they've done is absolutely terrific. We have trade with Rwanda and just general, I would say, great relationships. I want to congratulate you, Mr. President, as being the new head of the African Union. That's a great honor. This was just announced recently, and that really, truly is a great honor. So please give my regards. I know you're going to your first meeting very shortly, and please give my warmest regards. But it's an honor to have you as a friend. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, President Kagame says Rwanda has benefited tremendously from the support of the United States. Meanwhile, in Ethiopia, the chairman of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, condemned President Trump's alleged disparaging comments about African countries. Said early this month, Trump reportedly made the remarks during a meeting with congressional officials on immigration reform. Faki was speaking to African foreign ministers at the opening of the 32nd session of the Executive Council in preparation for the 30th AU Summit in Addis Ababa. He says Africa cannot keep silent about Trump's repulsive rhetoric about the continent in Haiti. Now, African leaders are set to discuss the remarks and actions by Trump during the summit on Sunday and Monday before issuing an official statement. Now, how to tackle corruption in Africa is at the top of the agenda at the African Union Summit, which is underway in Addis Ababa. The theme for the AU Summit this year is Winning the Fight Against Corruption, a Sustainable Path to Africa's Transformation. The 2016 Corruption Watch report indicated that the most prevalent types of corruption reported over the past few years center on abuse of power, followed by bribery and then procurement corruption. Attendees have said that corruption is one of the most urgent issues to address.
It's too bad for the population to bear, and it underpins huge political instability. It underpins many of the service delivery protests that we're talking about. It definitely diverts public resources from where they should go to into the pockets of a few.
Institutions like the Pirate Protector and other Chapter 9 institutions or constitutional institutions which are responsible to fight corruption. And since corruption is a scourge which affects or impedes development in any country, they need to be well-resourced, well-funded. So that is the biggest challenge I'm facing as the Pirate Protector. Corruption impedes development. At the end of the day, who suffers? The very same people which we are supposed to be protecting.
Well, now for more on the African Union Summit, VOA Swahili reporter BMJ Murithi joins me by phone from Addis Ababa. Hello, BMJ.
Hello, Vincent. Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Now, let's start with the meeting between President Trump and President Paul Kagame of Rwanda. Has there been any kind of reaction there in Addis Ababa?
Actually, there has been a reaction, even though it is not official. It's not a formal reaction to the meeting that happened. And the fact that President Donald Trump, I heard him there, congratulating Mr. Kagame for being nominated or appointed as the rather elected as the chair of the African Union. That is one of the things that people here are talking about, that President Trump would even go that route of congratulating Paul Kagame, especially because of one of the things that you mentioned earlier there, the statement that was allegedly made by Donald Trump. So this is an issue that is coming up. They have not said anything officially about the meeting with Mr. Kagame, but it is expected that when he comes, it is expected that he will be here because the handing over ceremony is expected to be done here on Sunday.
Yes. Now, regarding the theme of the African Union Summit, fighting corruption, we know that most of those African leaders who are coming there are themselves accused of corruption, being beneficiaries of corruption, abating corruption, condoning corruption. What are you hearing from the sidelines of these talks before the leaders come in? How hopeful are people that these African leaders can actually tackle a problem which they are part of?
Vincent, there is a sense of skepticism because this issue about corruption is, of course, not new, not in Africa, and trying to find ways of getting rid of it or even trying to contain it is not a new thing. So there have been many ways of trying to contain this situation, and therefore, even though the theme, as you said, is getting rid of corruption, the skepticism is there. One of the key officials from the United Nations on matters Africa, Vera Tonga, yesterday I attended one of the sessions where she was the keynote speaker, and she was saying that it's very difficult to actually contain this situation on the continent because of very many factors. And therefore, as the chairman of the commission said, they are saying that it's not easy, but they will try.
Yeah, we'll leave it there, and we just hope we get some positive results from that meeting. BMJ, thank you very much. BMJ Murithi is a VOA Swahili reporter reporting live from Addis Ababa. Now, a police raid in South Africa on Friday targeted a friend and ally of President Jacob Zuma and a top official in the African National Congress. A spokesman for the Elite Hawks Crime Fighting Unit says police were searching for documents in the Free State Premier's office and Agriculture Department over the Estina Dairy project in the town of Frede. Estina Dairy received public money meant to benefit the local community. But prosecutors say funds were illegally diverted to bank accounts of people, including Atul Gupta, a wealthy businessman. 1 year ago, President Trump signed an executive order that would become among his most controversial and legally tested decisions to date, a ban restricting travel for foreign nationals from a group of Muslim-majority countries in the name of national security. VOA spoke with members of diaspora communities from countries on the revised list where lives and livelihoods have been affected. Here's VOA's Ramon Taylor.
Shortly after prayer on a mild winter day, men stopped to chat along Brooklyn's Atlantic Avenue, a normal occurrence in a year of change for the New York's Muslim faith community. Yet the toll taken by President Trump's travel ban with its multiple court rulings and revisions is evident. Congregants from Yemen and other travel-restricted countries are glum.
I thought people in America here, because of the government and because of democracy, will do something to change the Trump, Trump ways.
Imagine not seeing your mother, your father, your brother, your sister. Imagine them being somewhere else, and you know that they're not safe. Like, come on, that's just completely hard on people.
Yemen, a nation mired in a 3-year-long civil war, is one of 6 Muslim-majority countries whose foreign nationals have been barred from entering the United States. Necessary, the order says, to protect Americans from terrorist attacks. Yemen was included in the first travel ban, which sparked major protests at airports around the country last January. But the Central African nation of Chad was added more recently, perplexing Chadian immigrants.
Chad is an active member of G5 in Sahel who fighting against the terrorism in the region. We are victims of terrorism in our country.
Hassan Mayo Abakaka, a permanent resident from Chad and father of 5, has lived in New York City for 19 years. But since his country was added to the travel ban in September, he says he has felt trapped, worried about doing business or visiting family abroad.
We are legally here. We want to go back and come back, do business, but we're scared because we don't know what the officer at the border will react against us.
Unlike Mayo Bakaka, Mohammed Musla, a permanent resident from Yemen, has traveled to the region since the ban was enacted. Though the ban doesn't affect him directly as a green card holder, he says the security treatment he received in airports has noticeably changed.
They ask you a lot of questions. They take your phone. They have to see inside what you have, what picture you have. This is crazy. I never got this before.
Travel agent Wada Mubaras, whose company caters to a majority Yemeni population, says bookings have been down by more than 50% over the past year.
If it is a ban take a long time, maybe we shut down the business. Maybe we'll lose everything.
And his ailing mother is stuck in Yemen.
We can't live without business. It's not a big deal, but we can't live without family.
Ramon Taylor, VOA News, New York.
Well, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered during the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter, VOA Vince McCory. Now, coming up, American children of African descent compare the U.S. to the continent. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, when your parents are from Africa and you're from America, it's hard not to compare the two places from time to time. Africa 54's Haiti Adams Fitzpatrick spoke to a group of American children of African descent to find out how they think about African America and America compared. From the weather and the beaches, the coffee beans and spears, the kids did not hold back.
It's said if you want to know the truth, ask a child. So we invited a few young friends over.
Today we are going to talk about Africa.
Everybody's not off into space because everywhere you go you'll see somebody that says hi to you and then you'll be hi back even if you don't know them.
If you walk down the street in Eritrea, you'd say hi, or you would say, how are you, how's your day? And that's what I like, it's really nice to hear that from another stranger that you don't know.
I like how it's very agricultural in some parts of Kenya. It's also like America, kind of, because of phones and technology and all that stuff.
I like how cultural it is. It's really different from America. And if you won't get maybe pizza or tacos from Eritrea, you can get something different.
The sand.
The sand? Why do you like the sand?
I like to make sand castles.
The power sometimes turns off, which is, I'd expect that because it's more in the countryside. It's not like America here, but that's what I dislike about it.
Me and my aunt went somewhere to the beach, and then when we got back, all the lights were turned off in the house, and it was pitch dark. So we had to use one candle for the entire house.
The temperature is really hot.
Crocodiles.
It was time for an assignment. Draw your favorite African memory.
I drew Kenya's flag. Black stands for the skin color. Red stands for the blood that was shed for the independence. And green stands for the earth. The shield And the spears are to show we're not playing around. We're an independent country.
I like how I drew the coffee that we usually make in traditions. Our family sits around at the table, and the person who's making the coffee, which we call bun, is cooking the beans. They're melting the beans into the coffee grades, and everyone's enjoying and having fun and talking to each other with your family.
When it came to the really tough questions, they were all tact and diplomacy.
If you were president for a day, what would you change?
If I was the president, I would improve on the electricity.
If I was the president of Tanzania, I would probably improve all the buildings and the structures, because when I go, there's all these run-down apartment buildings.
In America, there's community services, like they're helping everyone. But in Eritrea, they have to help themselves. I want people to help others.
I don't want to be judgy, but in America, there's 3 lanes in this one part, and then another 3 lanes going this way and that way. But in Kenya, it's a little crowded. So I think they could improve on that.
When it comes to family, friendliness, and even crocodiles, these young Americans say there is no place like home in Africa.
You like this beach?
Yeah, Mommy, and Burundi is fun.
Yes, it is.
Heidi Adams Fitzpatrick, VOA News, Washington.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. VOA employees dip it low on the dance floor to celebrate Africa. We'll be right back.
In Ethiopia, African Union chair says the continent cannot keep silent about U.S. President Donald Trump's recent alleged disparaging remarks. In Zimbabwe, President Emmerson Mnangagwa faces renewed accusations that he played a key role in a series of massacres known as the Gukurahundi, perpetrated by soldiers in the 1980s. In Ivory Coast, 600 kilograms of ivory and pangolin scales are seized and 6 people are arrested in a sting aimed at a major trafficking network. In Morocco, hundreds protest outside a court in Rabat in support of 4 journalists being tried for publishing a parliamentary commission's debate over a huge deficit at the National Pension Fund. Content was deemed confidential.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Now, Oprah Winfrey says she's not interested in a presidential bid, despite Democrats' continuing buzz about the billionaire and media icon. Now, Winfrey tells InStyle magazine in a newly published interview that she hears the encouragement but doesn't have the DNA for a White House run. She says she is very secure and confident in her life already. The 63-year-old is among the wealthiest businesswomen in the country, and one of the world's most recognizable black women. Well, next up, everything about Tim Mellini's clothing atelier looks normal. The cutting, the sewing, the buttons and the fabrics. But what detail catches the eye? The dog-shaped body model. And while the main business here is women's clothing, the team has just designed a new collection specifically for their 4-legged friends. A dog importer offers custom-fit looks, including cashmere knits, a nylon bomber jacket with tiny arms, double-lined Sherlock Holmes-style cappies, and lined raincoats for dogs ranging from the tiny Chihuahua to the stately Greyhound. And that's what is trending. I don't even have something like that. Well, it is officially Oscar season. Nominations were announced this week for the 90th Academy Awards, which will be held in Los Angeles on Sunday, March the 4th. Now, there is no ironclad way to predict who the winners will be, so we'll have to settle for speculation and wild guesses. Here to talk to us about the nomination process and the likely winners is Penelope Polo, VOA's entertainment reporter. Penelope,
hello.
This year, first, it's almost difficult to pronounce your name now that you're in the building. But surprises I saw in the nominations this year, particularly some mention of African short films.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is called, the English name of it is All of Us. That is a short film made by a German student who actually had that as a project for her film school. And it is about the Al-Shabaab attack against Kenyans and the real incident that happened on the 21st of November 2015. And she's trying to get into the spirit of the event. She's trying to show, using Kenyan actors, trying to show how condemning the attack. And hopefully this is going to be a powerful film and it's going to get the recognition it deserves.
At least the nomination on its own is something. But let's talk a little bit about the process. How actually do they get to this? Getting the best picture, the best director, actor and actresses?
All the films that were nominated this year, or most of them, are worthy of the nomination. The good news about it is that this time they were spread very generously. We don't have the uneven nominations that we had in the past. So it's great to see many women getting nominated, people of color, minorities, as well as white, of course, actors. The main category is Best Picture. It is expected to be one particular flick called 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And it has an incredibly strong female character. And I believe that because of the hashtag #MeToo movement, this is going to definitely benefit the film. Plus, the film is really very powerful about a mother who loses her daughter to murder and decides to take the local police department to task.
So, something people ask me sometimes is, are this necessarily just the best movies or the best actors, or is just because of the time, the theme of a particular movie?
That's a very good question. The ideal answer to that I would like to give is that it is a combination of both. If you look at who is the favorite to win the Best Actor this year, is Gary Oldman, who is playing Churchill in Darkest Hour, a film about Churchill's big decision to enter England into the war against the Nazis. If you look at that role, it was unbelievable. Just absorbing the lines and the monologues and emulating Churchill.
Very quickly, tell me about Mudbound.
Mudbound is an incredibly powerful and harrowing picture made by a female director, a very young female director, Dee Reese, who has been nominated for adapted screenplay and the picture for Best Picture. And it is about 2 men, one black, one white, who are returning from Second World War into the rural Missouri area and are facing the incredible American realities of racism.
All right. I think now we know who's going to win, right?
I believe, yes. I believe I always have my predictions. And
okay. Anyway,
so
we'll find out tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you very much for
you.
joining us, Penelope, for amazing analysis. Right. Okay, now our Music Makers segment today is somewhat special. Our own VOA colleagues take to the floor to celebrate Africa, and it is Africa 54's Esther What.
As the saying goes, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And every once in a while, Africans at VOA take a break to shake a leg and sing popular African songs. Guests are treated to popular music from every region of the continent, from Nigeria to Angola. Nigerian-Canadian singer and songwriter Tolu Yeboah is known in the music world as Tolumide. But this VOA's graphics artist has a way with the crowds when it comes to music. Heather Maxwell is just one example of how well integrated VOA's Africa Division is. The American-born singer, songwriter, and host of Music Time in Africa program sings Malaika, one of Africa's popular songs in Swahili language. Here, Maxwell entertains the crowd, playing a traditional musical instrument from Mali known as kamalengoni. She also teams up with Anastasia Tudiesho, French to Africa, to sing a duet. The party is also treated here to rap music by Reflex, a young Cameroonian artist based in Washington, D.C., who was among the invited guests. And after this freestyle dancing, it is time to cool off with the soft sounds of the violin played by the talented Mestawet Shumie, a broadcaster with VOA's Horn of Africa service. Esther Githu Ewart, VOA News, Washington.
Great. And that's our show for today. Now be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com for more news. Tune in to VOA's evening radio show Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC. That's Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us here in Washington. Have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Today's episode won't cost you anything.
Freebie.
Let's see what this one is about.
Anna, I love my job.
Oh yeah? Why is that?
I get so many freebies from the bands I write about. CDs, t-shirts, water bottles, even tickets to see them perform.
Wow. The only freebie I ever got from my